And now it's time for Tech Talk, the weekly show about how to get the most from technology.
Welcome to Tech Talk with Paul Blough from Blough Tech Computers in Cairo. This is a brand new show we run every week to talk about issues in the world of computers, gadgets, and other technology. And today, we're going to talk about something you probably have seen a lot on social media and on the internet, and that is all this news about the Heartbleed bug. It's everywhere these days. When I turn on my computer, Paul, I see it on just about every single site. They're warning me about this heartbeat bug. Now, for folks that don't know what that is, what exactly is Heartbleed?
Hey, Jeff. Good to talk with you again. And we're real excited about this opportunity and the program and getting some information out to the folks. Heartbleed is a particular bug in something called OpenSSL. And OpenSSL is a big news because it's used by over 1/3 of the websites on the internet. A lot of the main websites, anything that's done pretty much in the Linux operating or the Unix operating system, are very vulnerable to this particular issue, or have been. It was about a 3-year-old issue that has only been found recently, so it's a pretty big deal. A lot of the main sites, such as Google and Amazon and Facebook and many others, were susceptible to this, and it's not proven yet that anybody was taking advantage of that, but the bug allowed people to take a peek into the memory of any kind of transaction that was going on. SSL, just to kind of give you a summary of what this is, SSL is supposed to be what keeps things private between you and a website. You'll notice if you ever go and put in a purchase like on Amazon that it changes from HTTP to HTTPS. And that means that it's running in a secured socket layer. It's running this SSL certification back in the back end to encrypt the data so that somebody can't hack in and get your credit card information or get access to your password. And this bug in OpenSSL allowed a hacker to have the opportunity to peek at random parts of memory and possibly to be able to see something like a credit card number or a password that they shouldn't be able to see.
Now, you're saying possibly. It's not absolutely sure exactly if anything has been, if anybody's taken advantage of this, or if anybody's passwords have been compromised. I haven't really seen anything where there's been definitive that they've discovered that. There is the possibility that this has been out for about a week or so. Anything new since all this was released?
Right, that's correct. We don't know that anybody's taking advantage of this, and this is very true. Vulnerabilities happen all the time. Somebody discovers some little error in a code, and people sometimes don't realize how easy this is. Most of these software programs are written in millions of lines of code, and just one little tiny mistake or unintended consequence can produce these kind of vulnerabilities. We don't know of anybody that was taking advantage of this. And once the discovery had been made, the major websites were on top of it and were making the change just as quickly as possible. So we're hoping that that information was not made public or was not compromised in any way. However, because we don't know that, there's still some things that people need to do. In affected websites, you really need to change your password on those websites. And that's going to be the challenge for a lot of people to A, figure out which sites were affected by it, and then B, trying to go through that process of changing your passwords and how to remember to what the news passwords are.
Yeah, I mean, that is the problem. If you have 100 different sites you visit all the time, you might have 100 different passwords. Now, the sites we know that people should be changing their passwords for are things like Facebook and Gmail. I mean, we know those two, and Dropbox. Those 3 sites we know were affected by the Heartbleed bug.
Right, and other sites like LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram also were affected. And it's pretty safe that almost every site that you probably frequented was affected by that, because Linux and OpenSSL, which is related to Linux, is the heart of the internet, and that's why so many websites and so many large websites were affected by it. You talk about passwords and how maybe people have 100 passwords, and that's not out there. I mean, that's definitely is probably the case, because every website uses its own password system. They probably don't have 100 different passwords, though, and this is the danger, is that most people, knowing that they can't remember 100 different passwords, probably have one password on 100 different websites. And this is where it gets really, really scary, because if on any one of those websites they figured out what your password was, they can then these hackers can then go into other websites and try to use your password that they found for another site to be able to get into it. And perhaps that's a little more dangerous, like a bank site, where you might have your checking account, your online checking, or something along that line. So the recommendation is that you should use a different password on every one of those websites. Now, that's virtually impossible for anybody to remember. So what do I do in that case, and what do I recommend? There's a great little product called LastPass. It's a service that you can purchase, and it is a password management tool that integrates into your Internet Explorer browser or your Safari browser, whatever your internet site browser that you're using, and it will help you to use unique passwords on each site, and it'll help you to remember what those passwords are, and it'll allow you to basically it'll fill it in for you. The other thing that I like about LastPass is they've done a really good job when these kind of vulnerabilities happen. They'll go through your list of passwords and websites that you frequent, and they'll tell you, hey, these were the sites that were affected by this. Now, first time I saw this was back about a year ago when Adobe had the big breach and like 150,000 records were exposed. What happened is that the username and the password got published, and it got into this big hacker database. And so if you go to LastPass, they would go through your passwords and analyze and say, okay, you have a password for this other website, not an Adobe site, just another site, say Facebook or whatever. It's the same password that you used for the Adobe site, so you need to change that password. They've also done the same thing for Heartbleed. They're going through and analyzing the websites that are affected by that, and if any of those show up in your listing, then what they're doing is suggesting that you should change that password.
Now, we want to make sure that people understand that this is not a virus. So I'm assuming that if you have virus protection on your computer, it won't fix the problem with Heartbleed.
Right, that's correct, Jeff. This is not a virus. This is a mistake that was made in some code, and so it creates a vulnerability that allows people to go in there. And there's absolutely nothing individuals can do. It's not a vulnerability on your PC. It's not a vulnerability with your computer. There's nothing you need to do on your computer. It's a vulnerability in the software that the website companies are using. And so Facebook has to fix the problem. Google has to fix the problem, and they have. But not everybody has. There's still some sites out there that have not applied the update. They're getting to be smaller and smaller numbers of that, but there are still a few out there. So we've got to be real conscientious about that. But there's nothing you can do other than to change your passwords.
But even if Facebook has fixed the problem, if you're still using the password that you had before they fixed the problem and someone gained access to it, you still need to change your password.
That's correct, because you don't know that someone doesn't know that password. And again, probably we've not seen any indications that anybody got your password, your credit card number, or any of that kind of stuff. But because the possibility exists, you should take the due diligence to make sure that nobody is going to get in there and take advantage of that chance.
Now, you and I both use Apple products, and I did get an email this week that said that Apple has stated that Heartbleed did not affect any of their devices. It didn't affect MacBooks, iMacs, iPads, iPhones, any of that kind of stuff. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. Apple doesn't use the OpenSSL, so their products were not affected by it. Also, to be fair, Microsoft was not affected by it either. Any website that was done on a Microsoft web server was not affected by it because they have their own SSL product, and that was not part of the vulnerability.
So if I'm accessing all these sites like Facebook, etc., or Gmail, either through Internet Explorer, which is a Microsoft product, or on a Apple product, then I really don't have anything to worry about?
You don't have anything to worry locally, but remember, the vulnerability is not on your local PC anyways. It's a vulnerability in that website. And so even though you're using a Mac that is not affected by it, the website could have been affected by it, and the OpenSSL that was running on that website, not on your Mac, but on that website, still had your information. So you're still at risk, whether you used a Mac or whether you used a Windows PC or you were just using your phone to access things. It doesn't really matter. The end user's product, the home user's product, is not the issue. It's the web servers that was the problem.
And I've also read that this might also have an effect on firewalls and wireless routers and How deep does this go? I mean, one of the sites that I looked at said that we should be changing the passwords and access codes for all of our firewalls and our routers at your home or a business. I mean, do we really need to go to that step as well?
Well, it's not a bad practice. For instance, Cisco has announced that some of their devices were affected by this vulnerability. So if the product used OpenSSL and it was embedded into them in any level, there's that possibility of the exposure. Now, like for instance, SonicWall, which is the firewalls that we use and we recommend to our clients, is not affected by it. They've put out an announcement that they did not use OpenSSL. They were not impacted by it whatsoever. But there are some products out there that are hardware products that are going to be affected by this vulnerability as well. Now, if you're on a support contract with those manufacturers, they will provide updates to that. But what we find a lot of times is that when it comes to hardware, like a router that you may have at your house to give your wireless internet to your family, you probably don't have a support contract on that. You've probably not looked or touched that thing since you put it out. And so it's very, very possible that that's affected. What you can do is get your model number, get your make and model number, say it's a Linksys, whatever type of wireless access point. Go to Linksys' site and put in that information and see if they've got an update that needs to be applied to that that will fix the issue. And then if you find that you did have the issue, then you should go in and change the passwords to access that your firewall or your router.
And the product we've been talking about today to help you with all this, as far as passwords go, is called LastPass, L-A-S-T Pass. That's a paid product, but there are some free password managers out there too that can work almost as well, right?
Right. There's absolutely several really good products out there. I
know KeepPass is one of the ones. In fact, some of the people in your office actually have told me that's one of the ones they use called KeepPass, K-E-E-P-A-S-S, right?
Right. Yeah. It's there's going to be several different products that are out there, and some of them do it. LastPass is a subscription service that you pay just a little bit per month for. There's another product, I forget the name off the top of my head, for the Mac that you pay one time for. I think it's OnePass I think is what it's called, and you just pay once for it, and you have access to it. So there's lots of things out there to assist you. You just want to make sure that when you're putting all your passwords into this one service, you want to make sure that service is secure, because then that if that is exposed, that becomes a whole different issue at that point.
And we know this all gets very complicated, so if you have more questions about it, or if you're really confused about what to do next, you can always call Paul at Blough Tech Computers. The number is 229-377-8825, or you can visit him online at blouhtech.com and find out more about Heartbleed and all kind of other things. And we're going to be posting these Tech Talks both on his website, the radio station website. We're going to have a YouTube channel so you guys can get technical information about that. And Paul, we want people to send us their questions, because this show is designed to try to make the difficult ideas of technology more understandable and easier for people to comprehend. So if people want to ask you a question, what do they need to do?
Yeah, so it's very simple. You can just send a email to Paul at BloughTech, BLOUGHTECH.com, or you can send one to Jeff at WGRA.com as well.
Well, that's WGRA.net, actually. But send us an email, and we'd love to hear for your questions. Now, next week, what we're going to talk about on Tech Talk is this whole deal with Windows XP. If you have a computer that's still using the old operating system, I got an email on my computer, one of the ones that I still have that's on XP, that said, your operating system is no longer supported. What do you want to do? And I'm not really sure what to do. So next week we're going to talk about what to do if you have a computer that's using Windows XP operating system, because you need to do something here pretty soon. And of course, we'd love to hear from you if you have questions about anything technology-wise. Just send us an email either at paul at blouhtech.com or jeff at wgra.net, and we'll try to feature you next time on Tech Talk.
Thanks for listening to Tech Talk. If you have a question, please send an email to Jeff at wgra.net. And to listen to more Tech Talk programs, visit www.wgra.net or www.bloughtech.com.